our meeting this evening. So good evening, everybody. My name is Erin Galentine. I'm the Commissioner of Public Works in Brookline. It's a real pleasure to be here today for our annual Department of Public Works forum. And we hold this forum every year in advance of our May town meeting. It's become a great opportunity for all of our elected officials to reach out to their constituency, really find out what's hot and going on in your neighborhoods, come to our Public Works Forum, connect with us, ask questions, share ideas with us in advance of town meeting. And we've opened up this forum to the broader community so that they too can come find out a little bit about what we do and also ask questions and share ideas. So what we're going to do tonight is first I'm going to introduce you to our leadership team, and I'm going to say your names, and if you all could just unmute yourself briefly and just say hello so that folks can put a name to your face. And then I'm going to provide a probably a 15-minute overview presentation on who we are, what we do, and talk about some projects and initiatives that are underway. And then we're going to really open up the floor, and it's going to be all about your questions and comments. And we have some folks here that are going to help us moderate that. And when we get to that point, I'll kind of explain what that'll look like. So first, what I'd like to do is introduce the staff. So we have Kevin Johnson is our Director of Highway and Sanitation. Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
Fred Russell is the Director of Water and Sewer.
Hi, everybody.
Alexandra Vecchio is our new Parks and Open Space Director, and we're really excited to have her as part of our team.
Good evening, everybody. Excited to be here with you.
Tom Brady is our Conservation Administrator and Tree Warden.
Good evening, all. Good to see you all.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. And Todd Crane is our Transportation Administrator.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you virtually.
Yeah. And I have great news to share in that we just announced today that we have a Director of Engineering and Transportation, Robert King, who will be starting with us in July. So we're really excited to add him to this incredible team. So with that, I think what I'm going to do now is share my screen. And let's see. Can everyone see that okay? My team can sort of give me the heads up if it looks good.
Yes.
All right. So again, welcome to our community public forum. And you're gonna have to, pardon, I get some great light in the afternoon, but it creates funny shadows. So that'll change a little bit through the meeting. I'm gonna talk about our department initiatives, our mission, the 5 service divisions, some highlights in terms of projects and operations. And as I mentioned, then we'll go really to the meat of it, which is public comments and questions. So our Department of Public Works initiatives, as the new commissioner in this role, one goal that I have been discussing with the team is to create a 10-year strategic plan to align our division initiatives, really look at a long-range vision with annual goals and tie this to our budget. We're going to be focusing on occupational health and safety. This is both training, compliance, plans, protocol reporting, and accountability and commitment to safety. This is in the best interest of our employees and the public. Organizational capacity building, looking at our organization, at the job functions, strengthening and aligning the relationship between the divisions and how efficiently we're working, and also with our respective boards and commissions. We want to achieve excellence in communications. Community engagement in design and construction is something that Alexandra is already working on. Customer solutions, looking at the web, social media, various apps. This is something where there's a lot of opportunity, and we will be spending some time over the next year really trying to make it easier for you to access us and engage with us. And we've been looking at a digital transformation, and that also relates to customer service, but how easy is it for you to perform different transactions with the Department of Public Works? And COVID has really been, you know, a unique time for us to look at how do we continue to engage and connect with our constituency. And then looking at cross-functional capital improvements. And this is how do we achieve multi-division and town goals collaboratively. We want to be proactive and creative and incorporate climate change, sustainability, and the environment into all of our capital projects across all divisions. So our mission, Public Works provides foundational support for the daily activities of the community. We provide a clean, safe, inclusive, sustainable, accessible, inviting, and well-maintained network of public ways, infrastructure, and public spaces. We want to foster a culture of continuous improvement, growth, and excellence to deliver projects and services more efficiently, creatively, and effectively. And we want to be the service provider of choice for construction, maintenance, management, and design. We are very proud of our staff, and you should be too. And the power of Public Works is in advancing the quality of life for everyone in our community. So we have 5 different service divisions, and I just want to review those with you, and it may sort of fit into some of the questions that you have for us this evening. There's central administration and customer service, and I actually neglected to introduce Julie Piacentini, who's going to be helping us this evening in terms of questions. So Julie Piacentini, hi. Thank you, Julie. And also Jessica Zarni are with us. Jessica, she's there as well, she's muted. But constituent services and customer care is really the core of who we are and what we do. Looking at our social media. Also, this is the team that prepares the budget, does all of our expenditure control, clerical and accounting activities, payroll, sort of general administration, working with all the boards and commissions, heavy interaction with the public, and also employee support and management. And so this is the team that's really looking at our website, which needs, you know, a lot of work, and the social media platforms, improving the utility of the Brook Online tool. And we've already gotten some feedback from some of our boards and commissions about how we might be able to do that. The Pedestrian Advisory Committee has given us great feedback, really, on how to make that more user-friendly for the constituents. Looking at a customer service and communications plan, and I mentioned the digital transformation. Highway and sanitation, this is Kevin's division. This is roadway maintenance, street and sidewalk cleaning, snow and ice control, traffic control, street lighting, fleet acquisition and maintenance, motor equipment maintenance, sanitation and recycling, and then coordination with the utility companies. And Kevin's looking at updating our winter snow and ice management plan, has a new compost partnership program with Black Earth, and we really encourage everyone that can to sign up and be part of that program. We'll be updating and doing an inventory of all the waste carts so that we're really clear on all of the assets that we have out there as part of this program. And we're starting to do some research on zero waste planning and how we can create a zero waste plan for Brookline. We're really excited about this. The water and sewer division, this is Fred's division. And he's responsible for the maintenance and repair of all the water mains, service connections, hydrants, valves, meters, catch basins, manhole structures. They take care of inspectional services, a lot of site plan review. They operate, maintain, and repair all the sewer mains and surface water drains. You know, they're making sure that we have clean water. This is a huge business, tremendous collaboration with the MWRA. And they operate this whole business with an enterprise fund. And Fred has some really phenomenal plans in terms of capital investment in our water distribution system and also lining of the sanitary system. So a lot of thought going into long range planning to preserve and protect the integrity of this system. Engineering and transportation. They interact with all the divisions and really support all the divisions and other departments in town. They provide the technical engineering services, prepare plans, specs, bidding docs, oversee construction, and they do a lot with mapping, land use plans, public right-of-way questions, boundaries, design and oversight of traffic signals, and survey. So Todd Crane is the transportation administrator and does a tremendous amount of work with the Transportation Board, the Pedestrian Advisory Committee, the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and has some phenomenal projects that are underway. They are a small element within the Engineering and Transportation Division, but mighty. And we have some great projects that are underway, and I'll speak to some of these a little bit later. And then the Parks and Open Space Division. They're responsible for design and public outreach for the renovation and upgrades of parks and open spaces, conservation land management, open space protection, parks, public and school grounds maintenance. We support the ice skating rink, forestry management, cemetery management, sustainability and climate resiliency, master planning, and also visitor services. The Parks and Open Space Division has some great projects that are underway, some of which you can see now. Cypress Playground and Lars Anderson are both in construction, Muddy River as well. And there are some other projects that are coming up. So full design review process with the neighborhoods for both the Robinson and Murphy playground renovation projects. So with that, I just have a few highlights in terms of initiatives that the team is working on. And stormwater management and flood control is something that crosses all of the divisions. And looking at groundwater infiltration, flood control and management, and making sure that we have clean water that is going to our water resources. And compliance with the MS4 permit is something that Fred is really taking the lead on, along with our engineering division. Greening our fleets. This is something we're really excited about. The Parks and Open Space Division has really been a champion in this. We have battery operated seated mowers, stand-up mowers, small engine equipment, trimmers, chainsaws, leaf blowers, and Kevin is doing research right now on the broader fleet for the town in terms of going electric and where those opportunities might be. And there's a lot opening up in that arena. So we have our eyes on that, and that's really exciting, and look to do more of this. I mentioned Cypress Playground renovation. This is a tremendous project. It's a full playground renovation. It's going to be an incredible, inclusive playground that will serve all abilities, and the renovation of both athletic fields, stormwater management. This project is complex in that it's in the middle of the high school campus. There's a tremendous amount of collaboration going on with the team and the contractors working on those projects that kind of hugs Cypress Playground. And we're also taking on the signal upgrades at Cypress and Davis and Cypress and Tappan, and also roadway improvements in the streetscape on Tappan that will follow. Carlton Street Footbridge. This project is under construction. A lot of our town meeting members have heard about this project for years, and it is currently under construction, and we anticipate that it will be completed summer 22. And complete streets. So Gateway East, we're putting the finishing touches on that in Brookline Village on Washington Street. You'll see that a lot of the plantings have gone in. It's really taking shape. It's a much improved space. And There's still a punch list that we'll be working on with the state, but we're really excited to be bringing this project to completion. And in thinking about complete streets, the next significant project that we're looking at is the Washington Street corridor. And this is a 1.2 mile stretch. It is in need of major renovation, and we will be taking a complete streets approach looking at this, improvements to the roadway, sidewalk, bike and ped accommodations, ADA compliance, safety improvements, looking at all the transit amenities, and linking this major arterial roadway to Gateway East that we completed. And this is a project where we will be looking to partner with the state and get state funds to help support and construct. Transportation and mobility program. So this is something that's always of great interest, both at town meeting and at our public forum of the roads and the condition of the roads. So we have just completed a updated assessment of the condition of the public way. And we've done this with artificial intelligence. We're having a public meeting on June 16th from 6 to 8. And at this meeting, we are gonna present the findings of the assessment, talk about benchmarks, set community goals, get feedback from all of you in terms of, here's one way to look at setting priorities as it relates to the public way, and a timeline and cost by which we could do that, and then look at a whole host of different factors. And so we're really eager to get public input on that. We do have Clinton Road and Winchester that are nearing completion now. Hamilton and Columbia have been approved in terms of those contracts. Those roads will be renovated. And then we have a portion of Woodland that is currently under design. We also have a patching contract that is out, and we're looking to do some overall roadway maintenance, and that contract is going out shortly as well. The transportation and mobility plan is also looking at the sidewalk and curb ramp network. And so we will look at the nearly 150 miles of sidewalk infrastructure that we manage. What's the condition, and how can we improve that condition and accessibility for the public? And actually, before I move off that, is just a comment that the Bike Advisory Committee really provides a lot of great input in terms of the bike routes in Brookline and where the various deficits are. And so they've shared with us some of their priority roads. Washington Street, which I mentioned, which is in need of a full rehabilitation. We're looking at, are there ways that we can make some temporary improvements until such time as we actually commence that construction. St. Paul and Pleasant are also priority roadways. So waste management, just mentioned that this is something that the Department of Public Works is really going to be focusing on with the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. How do we look at our long-term planning around waste reduction and improve compost, the compost numbers of folks we have composting in town, make that more accessible, and looking at not just recycling, but reuse and other ways to reduce our overall just simple trash stream. The audible pedestrian signal and countdown timers, this is something where we have 33 intersections in town that are not compliant. We've really been thinking about how we can bring these crossings into compliance to support those that are sight impaired. And so we have incorporated some money into development projects, and Todd has done a great job at this with every project that crosses his desk, where he can incorporate that as a mitigation measure into the capital improvement plan and also into community development block grants. So we were able to add funding this year, and we'll be working with the public to prioritize these locations. The Beacon Street Bridle Path feasibility study is underway, and this is looking at mobility, incorporating a bike and ped path along Beacon Street for that full corridor. And it's really exciting. We're working with the community. We also are working with the MBTA. So there's a tremendous amount of collaboration. It's a great opportunity. Muddy River Flood Control, we are in phase 2. Tom is our project manager on this. You will see construction is underway in Olmsted Park. They have finished their dredging at Brookline Avenue and Netherlands Road. And so we're really eager for them to finish this portion of the flood control initiative. They will be done mid-June at Olmsted Park, and restoration will follow in the fall. And then Lars Anderson ice skating rink feasibility study. Alexandra will be leading this with the recreation department. And this is looking at the future of the Lars Anderson ice skating rink. We're looking at all of our civic spaces, adding lights, art, flowers, outdoor dining, and really trying to be creative through COVID in terms of how we support the businesses in the community. We are nearing completion of the Urban Forest Climate Resiliency Master Plan. We have a meeting on Monday where we'll be presenting the draft plan, and we will present the final plan to the select board this summer. And Davis Path Footbridge. So this footbridge that goes from Davis Path to Route 9 and crosses alongside the Boylston Street Playground was removed last year. And currently we do not have the funding for design, construction, or reconstruction, but we do have enough to do some exploration. And so we had some initial costs that were provided by a consultant. We are currently getting proposals for survey and soil analysis, and also a peer review to look at some creative strategies to manage costs as it relates to constructing this footbridge. And the most challenging factor associated with building this is coordination and costs associated with the T&T closures. And sort of lastly, in November, we had the MWRA had a 48-inch water main break on Lee Street. A lot of folks saw this on the news, but this was a multi-agency response effort. All of the divisions were involved in not only the response, but also in the remediation. We lost 2 lanes of roadway, the embankment of Brookline Reservoir, a portion of the park and path. This had been recently restored, and we had over 8 million gallons of water that came as part of that break. But in collaboration with all the divisions and the MWRA, we were able to contain this and then restore it. And so this spring, we have fully restored roadway, sidewalk, embankment, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And this is the Department of Public Works that you have. They all came right to the table to figure out how to resolve this for the benefit of the community in a safe, efficient, and effective way for the town. And so with that, I'm actually going to stop here and just say that next week is National Public Works Week. And I spoke a little bit about that with the select board last night. Here's an email address and a phone number where you can always reach out to our staff, and you'll be directed to whatever division that may be appropriate. But I really just want to add that the Department of Public Works our staff has been tremendous through COVID. And this has been a really hard time for everyone, but the personnel have really heroically just demonstrated their value as essential workers that continue to work hard each and every day to keep our community safe and functioning. And the demands of our changing world require these employees to be available as first responders in the event of any type of emergency, and they are. But COVID has tested us in new and different ways, and Public Works has proven itself its immeasurable worth to the community. So I'm really proud of our staff at every level that have been there and helped us to support this community and maintain all the services that we provide. So with that, thank you for indulging me. And we are going to go to our Q&A portion of the evening. And just to make this maybe run a little bit more smoothly, I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. And if you don't want to share your video, you don't have to. You don't need to enable your video. You can do one of a few things. You can raise your hand, and I see Nancy O'Connor's raised her hand. She's very good at this. She does lots of public meetings. So go ahead and raise your hand, and Julie will bring you into the meeting kind of one at a time. You'll be able to unmute yourself, share your video if you're comfortable, ask your question, and I'll sort of figure out which of the staff is best equipped to answer your question. And you also are more than welcome to put questions in the Q&A, and Jessica and Julie will be monitoring those as well. So with that, Julie, we can get started with questions.
Okay, well, first we have a question and answer. I'm not sure, but you can check with Nancy. She just said hello, so I don't know if she has a question or if she's just saying hi.
You can bring her in and are you able to?
Well, she's in the question and answer. Why don't we move on to Marissa Vogt, and I'll read her question. Hi, folks. She has 3 questions for the DPW. Does the town have plans to encourage composting in BHA low-income housing for whom the compost costs are prohibitive? What about large apartment buildings?
Kevin, you want to talk about the compost initiatives?
Yes, so with composting, we've got into a partnership with a company called Black Earth, which at the time, at what time now we have 1,176 customers now active doing composting privately from their homes. The cost is $2.31 a week. Once we reach 3,000 customers, the price will be $1.91 a week. So that's a very aggressive low price for composting. And they do pick up now on your regular trash pickup days. For apartments, they are now offering a 4-gallon pail toter. So it's a little bit smaller and more convenient for smaller houses or apartments instead of the 13-gallon one they traditionally gave out. Let me see.
And I think the other piece was specifically about the BHA, and maybe that's something where we can reach out to Michael and see what opportunities there might be. And there may be some, foundations that could provide support, but something that we'd definitely be interested in looking at, Kevin, I think, is we're looking at the zero waste plan and how do we make composting, accessible to as many people as possible through the town.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, Marissa's second question. Does the town have any long-term plans for connecting North and South Brookline? Without a car, it's difficult to get to some of the great South Brookline town resources like the Lars Anderson Park. I would love to see increased north-south public transit, better sidewalks, and a dedicated bike path.
I'd love to see that stuff too.
No.
And we are working towards it. So the Bicycle Advisory Committee has what's called the Green Routes Master Network Plan, and they've put this out every year since 2008. And this identifies desired regional routes connecting to regional destinations outside the town of Brookline, but also routes within the town of Brookline connecting to high schools, parks, playgrounds, business districts, etc. And each year, we work with the Bicycle Advisory Committee to essentially achieve, different parts of the Green Routes Master Network Plan. So last year, town meeting was good enough to fund the park and protected bike lane and the first block of Beacon Street, as well as the Green Street contraflow bike lane. So those are now constructed. And the next location we're looking at is Brookline Avenue. However, we have done work connecting to South Brookline. So what we do is, separate of those sort of dedicated projects, is anytime we can identify pavement projects, pavement restoration, or pavement preservation, where we can change the pavement markings at a minimum to accomplish these goals, we are doing that. So if you look at, if you're up by Lars Anderson on Newton Street and Goddard, you'll see new buffered bike lanes for the entire length of Newton Street, from at that point Clyde down to the town line, as well as Goddard Street are all new bike lanes. And we also do have bike lanes on Lee and Clyde, the entire length, that connect to a contraflow bike lane on Dudley Street that gets you into Walnut. So we, as well as Cypress, has bike lanes, and then also we do have of course, the dedicated pathway in the park along the Emerald Necklace. So we are slowly chipping away at this. We also have been working in the past with previously the Public Transportation Advisory Committee to try to convince the MBTA to reroute the 51 bus to improve ridership and access. And unfortunately, we weren't successful in that. But I know that the Shared Mobility Advisory Committee is now looking at alternatives, possibly a shuttle system similar to what Newton has implemented, and Salem is also implementing right now, to provide that, public access and transit to South Brookline. So we do have plans that are in the works, and we'll be working with our advisory committees and the Transportation Board to implement them.
Thank you, Todd. Julie, I'm going to promote a couple people from the that have raised their
Next up is Arden Reamer. She's up.
Hi, everyone. I want to thank you. Hi, I want to thank you so much for having this forum or inviting us. I am now a newly elected town meeting member for Precinct 8. So I'm so excited to be here, but now it's open to all of our residents here in Brookline, so even better. And thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you so much. And hi, Nancy. Okay, I have two questions tonight. My first one is for Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, how are you?
Maybe you remember me from Stedman Street. I live on Stedman Street across from the Florida Ruffin Ridley School, formerly Clutch Corner School, formerly Devotion School. And I actually live across from the park and playground area. And my question for you is around the ice melt that you all use, or the rock salt. So because I live across from the school, I understand the need to put down a lot of ice melt during the winter. And you do, excessively, and it's great. I haven't seen anyone slip yet. The only problem is that a lot of families now, I think 1 in about every 20 people in Brookline owns a dog. And I have seen some of the parents walking to school, some of my neighbors walk into the middle of the road to avoid all of that rock salt with their doggies and their children. And I wondered if you would consider the possibility of using a pet-friendly, environmentally friendly ice melt for the future.
Well, I agree with you with the amount of people that have pets in Brookline, which is great, because I have a dog myself, so, and we're always watching for that. But unfortunately, the so-called pet-friendly ice melt is not much different than the environmental friendly stuff that we use. We do not use straight rock salt anymore on the sidewalks or in the school and playground areas. We have the past 2 years, we switched to a more environmental friendly rock salt. You'll see it's more of a bluish greenish color now, where in the past we used to use straight rock salt. So we're hoping this helps in somewhat, but it's never going to be completely, not sensitive to the dogs, unfortunately. But we try to maintain how much we put down, but it's a fine line how much we put to make sure it's safe, and not to put too much so that it's not too bothersome for the pets and everybody else. So we do manage and try to watch that, but we're doing each year we're looking for new products and trying new stuff. And when something better comes around, we will definitely use it.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And actually, I have noticed a difference. It is a lot better than what you used to put down. So thank you very much. And it's good to know this information. So at least I can share that with the other pet dog owners. My next question is for Alexandra. Hi, Alexandra. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you? How's
Fine,
Oreo?
thank you. Oreo's great, and everything is looking fabulous. The new turf field, it's like a plush green carpet.
Wonderful. Excited to hear it.
My question is just around the tennis courts here on Stedman Street. I wondered if you all had decided whether or not you're going to do a revamp or a renovation of them.
I don't believe that those are part of the capital improvement plan at this time, but Erin, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, that's right. It's certainly getting to be time for those courts and some others, Arden, to be renovated. So the ones that are next in the queue are actually the courts at the Baker School that are in the worst condition and haven't been renovated in the greatest amount of time. And then Alexandra will be doing an inventory and assessment of the remaining courts. They really need to look at the cracks, the depths of the cracks, and how to prioritize those. The courts at the Ridley School actually have been resurfaced previous to some other courts in town. So they may not even truly be the next in line, but I have looked at the condition and it is time to get them on a plan. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because I mean, they're used, they're loved, and I'm not a tennis player, but they look fine to me. And it's actually a relief for me not to have major construction across the street, you know, for a little while, at least I can have a breather. But the reason I asked is because I really do want to donate trees across the street along that utility road. So please, I forget, you introduced me to who is your lead landscape architect.
Yeah.
So yes, and please ask Scott to get in touch with me, or you get in touch with me. I'd love to donate the trees and the maintenance to go along that utility road between it and the basketball courts.
Thank you so much. I will reach out.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and everything else you do.
Thank you. Julie, who's next?
Okay. Next, we have Nancy O'Connor. Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Arden, you're the best. Such a good neighbor. I had a couple things I want to say. One is something that I actually say at advisory every year for the last several years, and it has to do with the recycling fellow. And he's just an amazing guy. So this young man has been the same recycling guy for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. And I have an elderly neighbor who I do her snow removal for and help her with clipping her hedges or whatever all the time. But this young man comes down, and when he gets her recycling, he moves her container up onto her pathway, but also moves it towards the back of the house. They have this lovely love affair that she's so excited to see him. The lipstick goes on in the morning. Oh. And I can say that because she's not on this Zoom call and should be calling me little names if she could hear me. And if the trash has been picked up, he moves those containers up in towards the back of the house as well. Having said that, I've noticed recently the young man who is and I know he's Casella, but the young man who's the trash picker-upper, I'm sorry, I don't have any of their names. I just know their faces and we wave from the window. He has since been moving his container up onto the path. I don't know if they talk or how this happens, but he'll put her container up onto her path. The rest of us have to do our own work, but he moves it. And then the other thing that really struck me several months back, I know you always get complaints, so these are good things. Several months back, I noticed the fellow with the trash pickup is moving all the containers, and I couldn't understand what he was doing. He was localizing them in groups, even not just the trash, but also the recycling units, so that it was easier for the next guy to come and scoop them all and not have to move them all on our tiny little road. So it's teamwork. It's good to see. It's being somewhat of a member of the community. We're all waving from here, and it's a good sight to see these young men being so awesome. And even if I knew their name, I'd probably call them a different name. So, because that's the way I remember things. But just great guys. And I don't know if it was ever passed down to them. I know I've said it to you before, Aaron, but I just want to make sure it doesn't go unnoticed. And we see this, and they're really special fellows. And then the only other thing I want to say is, you may have said it earlier, is reminding of the Amnesty Day, which people have been asking about, and I know we've posted it, but that's a big, exciting day that we've been talking about here too. So welcome, Commissioner, and all of your fabulous staff. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nancy. And that's great to hear about the staff, because they really are part of this community. But Nancy mentioned Amnesty Day, Amnesty Week, actually. So if you're doing your spring cleaning next week for Public Works Week, on your regular scheduled trash day, you can put out extra bags of trash. And we can hear you, John.
Hi, good morning. I was actually calling up about Amnesty Day. It's my favorite week in the year,
Oh, boy.
with the exception of the 2 weeks cleaning out basements. But what I'd like to know, and I think the public should know, what they can put out and what they shouldn't put out and how they should put it out. If there's anything like hazardous waste or anything of that nature. So I don't know if it's Kevin's call or your call. but-
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, so Amnesty Week is just an opportunity that we put in place when we went to the modified pay-as-you-throw program, because you're only allowed so much in whatever total you get. So during Amnesty Week, a few things still apply. If you have bulky or metal pickup, you still need to call that stuff in. But as far as if you have extra trash that doesn't fit in your barrel, your toter size, say you have a 35 or a 65, and you have bags that don't fit in your barrels, you do not have to pay or get a $2 bag from the grocery store to put it beside your barrel. You can put it in a regular trash bag and put it beside your barrel. It can be 3, 4, 5, whatever you have extra of that next week. As far as the hazardous waste, that still needs to be brought up to the transfer station, 815 Newton Street, which is open now every Tuesday from 7:30 to 12:30. So yeah, so like I said, all bulkies, mat, bureaus, metal still needs to be called in. But other than that, yeah, you can put whatever you need as long as it's in a trash bag.
Very good. I just want to also say that this meet and greet tonight with all your great town employees and department heads is really an eye opener on the quality that this town has with its personnel, and everybody who I'm looking at now, I can honestly say that they've been very, very kind to me, and whenever I ask for something, I do get a good answer, and it's taken care of. But I want to thank Aaron for this transparent tonight. I thought we were going to have a role in it, but now we do. So thanks
Absolutely.
again, all of you. And I had one other question on pavement. Is there any other roads in the town that are on the list or on the radar to be done over that are in poor condition?
We have a lot on the radar, actually, John. So there's a backlog of roadway rehabilitation work. We're working on a whole host of different types of preventative maintenance and ways that we can improve the condition of the roadways. This is something, and I really invite everybody that's interested in this topic specifically to come to that meeting on June 16th, where we will be looking at the grade and condition of the roads across town. So there are other projects we're really working within our budget right now in terms of what we can actually rehabilitate each year. The other thing that we're trying to do is work with National Grid and get them ahead of us as it relates to their main relay work and lining work for leak prone pipe. So we are trying to coordinate with Grid. We're giving them our priorities and lists, you know, sort of coming down the road so that they can get in and do that work, and then we can come in and do the rehabilitation on the roads. So yes, John, there are many others, and you know, we're really going to dive into road by road at that June meeting. So hopefully we'll see you there, but also I'm glad to talk to you about it anytime.
Okay, and now one more thing. I have one pet peeve. The
Yes.
speed bumps on Pond Avenue, I think they're illegal. They're too high. And I can't drive my vintage Camaro down there because it hits the bump underneath. So that is a problem, because I do visit Los Anderson and I do visit the town. So
You have to go High Street or Lee.
I think they're too high anyway. And I know that I guess they serve some purpose besides having to slow down, but there's two of them there that are very high.
Yeah.
I can't think of Allison Road maybe. And I'm wondering if there is any code for the height of a speed bump or not. I know a lot of towns have a vibration. They have a vibration before the area to you automatically slow down. We don't do that here, but I've seen it in other cities and towns. Instead of bumps.
Okay. Todd,
So,
do you want to address that, or do you want
Sure.
me to us to just look at it and?
No, we've looked at it. So, Mass DOT has a standard specification on the design of speed humps based on the height and the ramp length. And all of the ones that are installed in town, whether on Pond Avenue, Walnut Street, Kennard, no, sorry, not Kennard, Welland, and a couple others, all of them meet and are designed and installed per Mass DOT standards.
Yeah, there are a couple that on Pond that you can visibly see the scrape marks for not just my car, but others. So I just thought I'd bring that up to see if there's any way we can soften the bump over the on a couple of those on Pond Avenue. Outside of that, great. It's just great program I'm watching, and thank you very much, Erin, and all of you for participating and helping us out.
Thank you, John.
Commissioner, can we get to a question and answer next?
Yes.
Great. This is from Abby Swain. Could you talk about the relationship between DPW and the Recreation Department? It seems like more and more of our parks-based athletic facilities like tennis and basketball courts are being permitted for pay-to-play programs. This leaves fewer time slots for casual drop-in play, and it's difficult to anticipate what you'll find when you set out for a facility. It would be great if the town could publish a central calendar or a facility by facility calendar that shows what formal uses are programmed versus when casual use is welcomed.
Central calendar is a great idea, Abby. I feel like we had talked about that with the Park and Recreation Commission. And I think that's something that maybe even the new software, Alexandra, might be able to accomplish, or maybe already does. But do you want to talk a little bit about this, or would you like me to?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So thanks for the question, Abby. So as you know, the Parks and Open Space Division is part of the Department of Public Works. The Recreation Department is not part of DPW. However, the Parks and Open Space Division and the Recreation Department work really closely together, especially because our Parks and Open Space Division are the team that's really caring for the facilities, the fields, the maintenance, cutting the grass, making sure that they're ready for play, for games, activities, that kind of thing. And the Recreation Department is managing the programming and permitting of all of those spaces. And so together we have an advisory board of the Parks and Recreation Commission as well. So even though they're not part of DPW, we work with them very closely, especially when it comes to the ice rink, the pool, and really any of our fields that are being permitted as well. I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't believe that there is a central calendar, but I want to say that with the caveat of, one, I've only been here a couple months, and two, I haven't spent a ton of time on the recreation website personally. So I don't think there is, but I'm happy to check on that. And I'm also happy to talk to our recreation department and see if there's a way that we can centralize that information, so basically know before you go about the availability and access of some of the public spaces.
Thank you, Alexandra. I was just going to add her timing was perfect, as John and Nancy had just, had a couple of questions, and I'm sure they're listening from Park and Rec, and we'll bring that back for discussion at a future commission meeting. Julie?
Great. We'll do another question and answer. Marissa Vogt had a third question that we didn't get to, and it was, how does the DPW department ensure that town resources are being spent equitably? Is there any focused effort to ensure quality recreation and open space access to our lowest income residents?
So we do look at affordable housing, environmental justice neighborhoods. We look at quality, we look at condition, we look at neighborhoods across town. And so as the division of Parks and Open Space is pulling together their capital improvement plan, they are looking at the greatest and highest needs and who those users are. And Alexandra right now as well is rolling out a community engagement and inclusion tool to better reach out to, engage, and connect with the most needy in our communities, and try to build connections and get more input in the public process of renovating these public spaces. So it is something that is definitely front and center in terms of how we think about our parks and open spaces, and having places that are accessible and inviting to all ages, all abilities, all ethnicities, all social classes. That is really one of our driving forces, is that these places and spaces are for everybody. And we feel about that for the same way about that in terms of our network of spaces, including the public way.
We'll do another from the question and answer, and then I know Hugh's been waiting, and we'll get to him. So this is from Lily Yu. Why is the town not being more aggressive with composting? Towns like Hamilton are mandatory, and Cambridge are giving out the bins.
Kevin?
As far as not being as making it mandatory, we are, like Erin said before, we are starting to work on a zero waste plan within the division and within the town. But it's up until a few, for a good example, Hamilton was one of the first towns that were rolled it out town-wide, but they also had the access of being able to dispose of it easily, because that's where the farm was that was taking all the composting. Up until recently, we didn't have the space, or the vendors or the contractors didn't have the space to take in large volumes of composting. They just didn't have a place to put it. But each year that's changing, and more and more spaces becoming available. More and more contractors are starting to pick it up. So do I see this being rolling out in the future throughout the town? Yes, but we're not there yet. There's still some logistics that need to be done. And that's why we partnered with Black Earth to try to get the price down for people who do want to do composting at a minimal price, which is, like I said before, $2.31 a week. And once we get a few more customers, up to 3,000, it will drop down to $1.91 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kevin.
Is that, I think that answers her question on that one.
Okay. Next up, we have Hugh Madison. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Hugh. Hugh, are you there? We can't hear you. All right, we can come
That's
back to Hugh.
okay. Let's move over to Rob. Rob Daves.
Hi.
Hi, Rob.
Hi. It's so great to see everybody here. First, congratulations to Aaron for taking over as a head honcho on this thing. I think it's a wonderful thing to continue. Andy Papasturgeon had this tableau of people, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And especially when you did your introductory PowerPoint, it's stunning how much gets done in this department. It touches everybody every day as soon as they step out of the house, even before they, even when they brush their teeth in the morning. So,
That's right.
and I also want to give you, say some congratulations about some of these long-term things that have taken so much due diligence, so much effort, so much collaboration, political and otherwise, for the Carlton Street footbridge. That's 20 years or more. Gateway. These are things I've been involved in. There are plenty more. Gateway East. I had dinner over at the hotel and a punch bowl restaurant out on the back. I hope that stays open.
Nice.
It was very quiet. It happened to be a Sunday, but I thought the traffic on Route 9 would be a problem. It was just a new space that kind of puts us in touch with the park too, because that's a unused part of the park that there was some feeling of being in a nice place
it's a very transitional part of the park, right? That people are moving through it, but that brings a reason for people to stay.
Yeah. And then of course the Muddy River, the dredging that's going on. That's good to see that finally getting done. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and it's something that people in my neighborhood have bugged me forever about, and you mentioned a little about it. It has to do with the paving of the roads in our neighborhood. Pill Hill, one of the oldest neighborhoods, has built up pavement. In many cases, it's gone, over the sidewalks, higher than the sidewalks. The original granite curb is buried. I understand you have, as of 2018, according to the combined reports, a $23 million backlog on restoration of roads. So I understand that this is, one of many problems. But I spoke with Peter Ditto repeatedly over the years, and he claimed that what should be done is there should be a coring to see how deep it is, and then probably have it replaned. And that I just like to. I know you said on June 16th you're going to have start an assessment process, and I hope this gets put in there. But how it gets done is important too. And there's buried granite curbing here. I hope that would be restored. I know much of it's been removed, but a lot of it's
variable in the neighborhood. I noticed.
Yeah, a lot of people in the neighborhood have paid for their own curbing or done some pretty funky stuff on their own. And it really needs, someday it's got to be addressed. I know this isn't the biggest thing in the world, but I just want to put that out.
I guess I will just add that Kevin has been out and looking at that neighborhood, because we did notice that there was a bit of sort of unraveling and deterioration. So at least he's out there trying to do some repair work. This is not part of the, sort of full restoration that you're talking about, but it is on our radar.
Yeah, and for instance, Allerton or Irving Street was paved wall to wall, and it doesn't operate properly, and it doesn't look very good. The other thing I would, a couple things I can say. One would be when we have to move off gas, in the future, and it's going to come. And we have to prepare for it. And so there's been some talk about using some of the right-of-ways, maybe some of the conduits that exist for gas for ground source delivery of ground source mediums to heat homes in a regional way. I just wonder if, as people are working across all these disciplines, if there's some pilot program that could happen someplace in Brookline. I'm not sure that's the right thing. But I think we have to become aggressive about how these kinds of new technologies may apply to our town, and try to get a front seat on how these things develop. That's just a comment. And then the last thing I would say is there was a change in the law for the erosion control law that allowed for regulation of removal of trees on private property. And I'd just like to hear from maybe Tom about how well that is working. It's been a couple of years. It was kind of a new idea. Is it accomplishing what you thought it would? Could it be improved, or is everything, are we succeeding where we thought we would?
Great question for Tom.
Thank you, Rob. That recommendation to revise the stormwater control bylaw came out of the committee that was set forth as a result of the discussion a few years back at town meeting. And it was intended to be, from the committee, a first step in what would be an evolving process that would include possible revisions to site plan review and other such things in the community. So what is working is that we are getting notified when there's a proposed action that will remove greater than 32 caliber inches of trees. We start counting at 8 inches in size and go from there. So that is functioning. We get a pretty steady stream of applications, and the legal requirement, although it sounds fairly wordy and technical, is that they have to replace the functions and values that the trees served in the context of stormwater, which means they can replant, but they can also put in a stormwater structure instead. They have to attenuate the stormwater, so it can go a couple different ways. So that process is working. What it has not done, it doesn't provide a hard stop to tree removals, and that wasn't the intent. So that's not what it does. What we did find in talking to the surrounding communities as we developed that is that's been the challenge. But in our case, it was intended to be a first step in the process that would then continue to have discussions with, at the time it was Mike Yanovich, to beef up those requirements in site plan review and roll it in. And as time marched on, Mike Yanovich left the employee of Brookline and went to another community and is in another role down south and doing well. But that continuum kind of stopped at that point. So so it's working as intended, but it was intended, and I've gone back and reviewed the minutes of the committee to be that interim step. So we need to continue that forward. So so we are getting applications, we are reviewing, we are aware. The vast majority of tree companies are aware of what they need to do, and they follow it and they adhere to it. But fortunately, because we're by and large so close to each other, relatively speaking, we still do get the occasional call of someone who's doing a removal who's not aware of the bylaw, and we have gone out on a few different occasions and had to stop someone and have them complete the application process and then proceed from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Rob, I will just say that I have reached out to National Grid and have started discussions with them around possible pilot project opportunities. So we are interested in potentially looking at something that would bring in alternative forms of fuel and what a pilot program could look like in partnership with one of the utilities.
Okay. Good.
Hi, Rita. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay.
Perfect.
Erin, it's great to see you. As you know, we're big fans of yours. Lost Pond has become just the main attraction. I mean, I find people back there getting engaged, stargazing. I mean, you name it, it's all there. So the trouble area we have, and Tom, you probably know too, and I think Mary Murphy is probably going to talk about this as well, is the wooded area on Arlington, between Arlington and Hammond Pond Parkway. I mean, something dreadful has happened. In fact, my grandson keeps asking me what happened. The beavers have destroyed these woods. And so we realized that it's somewhat complicated because it's not just Brookline, it's also the state. But the issues are that it is getting decimated, and it's of course very noisy. You can literally see the traffic going by, and we were hoping with your magic, Erin, you could do something about this. And Tom.
So, it's I think I'll first go to Tom, who has really been trying to work on this sort of beaver control, which has been a real problem. And you are right in terms of it not being town land, it being owned by the Department of Conservation and Recreation for the Commonwealth. is a complicated layer, but still Tom has been making strides to implement some change and maintenance. So Tom.
Rita, thank you for the question. We've had a couple different steps that we've taken. One is that we've received on 4 different occasions what's called an emergency certification to remove the beaver dam. And we've gone in with town forces with DCR's permission and physically removed the impoundments and moved the water along. The deeper issue is the possible course of action of doing nuisance animal trapping, which would need to be done by the property owner. And we've had those discussions. The second big piece that we embarked on just a few months ago is we worked with our friends at the DCR at the Stormwater and essentially created a new stream channel from the townhomes on along the parkway that now ties back into the storm channel that comes and runs adjacent to Skyline Park and wraps around. We had found that originally it started as a maintenance project. It was so impounded, not by beavers in fairness, but by invasive vegetation and leaf litter that it was no longer flowing. And we found that by the time they excavated that and did the restorative action, we would have a better wetland resource and a better stormwater flow and better conveyance if we just did a new channel. So that's what they did. I would note that the issue that you're seeing is a change in hydrology. I've been looking at this for 15 years, not just here, but I live in Metro West. I do some work down the Southeast. I travel back and forth through the Route 2 corridor quite a bit. It's a regional issue where the hydrology has changed. The water table has come up. So the water levels have come up, and that is the cause of the massive dieback that we see, not just on either side of Hammond Pond Parkway, but down inside the footprint of the Lost Pond Sanctuary as well. We have for years chased the streams, and I will put in quotes, all the way down through Newton to try and identify the issue. We've never found any clear blockages down there. And that's when we started to take a step back. It is something we just spoke of last night with the Conservation Commission at our meeting to try and start to facilitate and begin some discussions on a much wider basis. Because this is a clear change in hydrology. Because even when we pulled the dams out, the water level comes down a little bit, but it's still higher than it was for a long, long, long time. And that's why we're getting that dieback. To mitigate part of that with the neighborhood, you may or may not know, but we're going to be planting several trees along Arlington Road outside the fence up on the high side to start to reestablish some screen between that neighborhood and the parkway on the far side. But we will continue to investigate the issue, and we'll continue to work with our partners at DCR and push them to try and find some solutions.
That's very good news about planting the trees. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
Okay.
Commissioner, can we go to a question and answer?
Yes.
Or the Q&A? Does anyone have a suggestion for how to discourage dog walkers from dropping filled poop bags in our black barrels?
Oh, goodness. That's tough. Signs. Press releases. God, Kevin, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, like you said, it's just
sometimes people will latch their barrels, but
yeah,
it's
signs.
tough.
But I think one of the ways is not putting it out till the day of your pickup at 7 a.m. Leaving it out the night before. That's when people are walking by at night. The day before. So. And then getting it off the street as quickly as possible, because if it's left there during the day, I know you have till 3 o'clock of the day you pick up to get it off the street, but it just gives more time and for them to be able to just drop it in there. So that's my suggestion. But other than that, there's not much. Like you said, put signs up or something.
I know, as we're thinking about sort of overall waste management, that maybe should be part of our kind of PR piece of it, is how to be good neighbors as it relates to our entire waste management program.
Okay, we'll go to another Q&A from Martina Albright. Hello, Erin. Thanks so much to you and your team for managing such a complex job. I am so pleased to see the renovations happening at the Lars Anderson Park Pond area. Could you say more about the latest plans for the skating rink? Is there a decision for what will be there and the anticipated time frame?
Hello, Martina. Thank you for being with us this evening. So what we're doing with, and Alexandra, if you'll indulge me, and then you can jump in if there's anything else. So we had a failure of the refrigeration system at the beloved outdoor skating rink at Lars Anderson Park. And so we currently have brought in, we're leasing temporary refrigeration units each year to try to keep the rink going for those 3 months in the winter, as long as we possibly can. But the rink is tired and it needs a full revamp. So we actually had to go to advisory to get a reserve fund transfer to enable us to reconfigure the mechanical and electrical at the rink so that it would be compatible for these temporary refrigeration units and funding for the first year of the lease. Future years is now included in our operating budget. But as part of that conversation, they authorized a feasibility study for us to look at rebuilding the ice rink in place and what that would mean. And that's full, mechanical, electrical, the refrigeration room, the refrigerant, the slab, life safety, the warming hut, et cetera. There are lots of ways in which the current rink would need to be upgraded to meet the needs of the whole host of different uses. So we'll look at that. We'll also look at a covered rink. And in looking at a covered rink, that means open sides, but something that would not be as vulnerable to rain, snow, and sun, which significantly impact the condition of the ice. And we see more and more days where the rink is closed for this very short season, really because of our climate and the variability of our climate. And then we're also looking at an indoor rink. We'll look at the footprint. So this feasibility study is very conceptual. So it's really looking at templates and some concepts of what that would look like. So they'll look at Lars and come up with an option with these 3 scenarios at Lars, and then up to 2 other locations elsewhere in town yet to be determined. That'll come out of the public process in terms of if there are ideas for other locations that potentially could be more suitable for an outdoor rink or more suitable for an indoor rink. There are, restrictions at Lars Anderson Park in terms of, it's protected by both Article 97 and the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And so right now it'll be part of a fit test, and we're trying to be very open and kind of address all the different users that have asked for different solutions. So we want to talk about it as a community. We're starting with that at Lars, and we're looking forward to a great process. We have selected the consultant team, and we'll look to kick off maybe an initial meeting. Alexandra, remind me, is that June? June. Okay. So in June, and Martina, I'll make sure that you are on our mailing list, and we would love to have you there. And there is a lot of exciting work finally kind of coming down the road at Lars.
Okay. Next person we have has been waiting patiently, Joseph Ross, if you want to unmute yourself.
Joseph, how are you this evening?
Thank you. I'm well, and I want to congratulate you on your appointment.
Thank you.
We didn't have this meeting last year. I don't think so. We couldn't do it last year. And I'm very glad to see this meeting happening again because I always find it very interesting. I would like to comment in a different way about sidewalks, because I have noticed this in recent years as it's become more and more difficult for me to walk, that one challenge to walking on some of our town sidewalks is they become rather bumpy because of tree roots. And I don't know what can be done about it. Maybe that should be taken into consideration when selecting trees. Maybe there's some other maybe there's some other things that can be done that I don't know about, but it's become, I mean, I'm walking with a cane now, and not without some discomfort, and this just adds to the difficulty. I can't go out and take a walk down my street. I have to go across the street, then I can do it. And I need some exercise these days when I'm not going out to the office every day anymore. It's a real problem. That's, I have two issues, so I'll stop here. Just please come back to me when you finish answering this one, because I
Okay.
got one more.
All right, we'd be happy to. So this is a problem. We love our trees, but we really need safe, accessible sidewalks as well. And so this is something that is a challenge for us. I'm gonna turn it over to Tom to talk about some of the technologies that we've tried, that we're trying, and you know, we continue to look for different ways to try to ameliorate this problem and recognize that it is real.
So thank you, Mr. Ross, for the question. In terms of your suggestion specifically about species, it turns out through science and through the miracle of grad students who stare at roots for years on end to get their doctorate, we know that roots are in the top 12 to 18 inches of the soil for all species. So what we've done instead, and what science has done instead, is looked as what's underneath. It turns out, so all those years ago, when we compacted super hard underneath the sidewalks and didn't have any ability for the roots to penetrate, that forced them to come up. And when they grew and they pushed up, it lifted up the sidewalk with it and took the case. So we're changing our construction methods on the sidewalks quite a bit for what's going underneath, in terms of using things that we call the big fancy words like structural soil and other things, and it just means that the roots can grow through them instead of trying to push up on top of them, and that's helping quite a bit. But when we do have problems, we're doing a couple different things now. One is the ever unpopular take the cement out and make a smooth transition and a smooth up and over the root with the asphalt. But the second is we've been testing out a few different porous, what we call porous asphalt surfaces, which will allow water to penetrate, and the subsurface again allows the roots to go right past the sidewalk and keep on going. So it doesn't lift it nearly as much. I will not say it won't lift it, but it won't lift it nearly as much as it did with the previously constructed sidewalks. So it's a combination of those steps that we're doing. We are staying away from certain species that we know grow a little bit quicker than others in very tight areas, because they're going to be problems. And a good example of that are the famous elm trees that were here years ago that we all loved, but they're probably the worst sidewalk lifters that we have. So we stay away from them. So it's a combination of trying to target those species that are going to grow a little bit slower, but still establish, changing the way we're constructing underneath the sidewalks to allow the roots to get right past it and not lift it quite so much. And then using those porous asphalt pieces. And if none of that works, we also will on occasion, we can very selectively and very rarely remove specific roots of concern, but those roots do actually hold the tree up. So when you take out too many roots, you create a safety issue, and we have to be very cognizant of that as well. So it's a balance every time we look at these.
Well, the trees, the sidewalks that I am dealing with are asphalt sidewalks, they're not concrete.
So if you are kind enough, or I can follow up with you after, and we can get those specific addresses, and we can get out there and take a look at them, and we can probably find a solution to that pretty reasonably.
Okay. I don't know how to send you a message.
No, don't worry. We actually, Jessica will write down your name, and we have your information, so we'll get in touch with you.
We'll head out that way.
Yeah. And for anyone else that has a question that we weren't able to get to tonight, we will reach out to you and get back to you with the answer.
Right now, my second issue.
Yeah, you had another question?
All right, yes. Second issue is I keep hearing about the Bicycle Advisory Committee, and I'm sure that's a good thing. I once tried years ago when I first came to Brookline, I tried biking around Brookline. It was very difficult. I'm sure it's easier now. I can't do it anymore, but I'm sure it's easier now than it once was. But it seems to me that the one method of transportation that that every change is at the expense of those of us who drive cars. And there's an attitude that, well, don't drive cars, except some of us need to drive cars. I can't walk anywhere anymore. I can't even walk down to the corner to the T-stop. And I have trouble even sometimes walking from a parking space to where I'm going, which is why we have handicap parking spaces, but there aren't enough of them. I really, maybe we need a car advisory committee. I don't know, but I think that we need to accept the fact that we are going to have cars in Brookline. They are, and they are a necessity for many people. And you're not going to change that by making it harder to drive cars or to own a car. I mean, I notice we've got a new elderly housing building in near Kehilloth, Israel, that has no parking spaces for residents. I mean, I would have liked to look into moving there, but I can't consider that. I can't get anywhere.
Thank you, Joe. I mean, this is going to be one of the most challenging, issues that we're going to be facing as a community over the next 10 years is the sharing of the public way. And there are, many different, we see changes in sort of the whole automotive industry. There's changes in public transit. There's changes in rideshare. And looking at bike and pet accommodation, and it is a balancing act for sure. There is still room for cars, but we're trying to make room for everybody else as well. And I understand that there is a little push and pull when it comes to this issue in the public way. Is there anything you want to add, Todd? And then I do want to say, Julie just gave me a little tick that we have quite a few questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure what number we're on, but I do want to be able to try to get to those and just give folks an opportunity.
Nope, you covered it all.
All right,
The
thank you,
push and
Joe.
pull.
And we'll be in touch with you to look at your sidewalk.
Okay,
Nancy,
great.
would you mind sitting tight just for a minute so we could get to some of the Q&A? Is that all right? Okay.
Okay, this Q&A is from Elizabeth Schaefer. She has 2 questions. The first question is, a few years ago, speed bumps were added to the road at the top of Quarry Hill to create a safer access to the parks. Has Brookline done traffic speed studies on all parks and playgrounds to determine any other needs for traffic safety measures?
So our traffic calming program, which is on our website, so I won't go into too deep into it, but it's a request. So it requires that the residents or town meeting members file a traffic calming request form. That's how the Quarry Road improvements came about. We do speed counts and volume counts as part of our Complete Streets projects, separate of the traffic calming program. So whenever there are roadways that are going to be repaved, we do speed and volume counts to determine if there's unsafe conditions, and then we look to mitigate them with raised elements or other traffic calming measures. But the vast majority of things such as the Quarry Road are at the request of residents or town meeting members.
Thank you, Todd.
Elizabeth's second question, are there any plans to add ramps to the footbridge near Old Lincoln School over the T-tracks? Right now, kids with mobility issues need to take a bus to move between sites, but it'd be nice if they could join their classmates.
Is this the Davis Path footbridge?
Yes, that's a Davis Path footbridge.
Yeah, so as I sort of mentioned earlier, right now we're looking at doing soil borings and survey work. We don't have a plan. We're really in sort of the peer review opinion of probable costs so that we can figure out and provide some options for the town in terms of the best way to fund the reconstruction of the footbridge. But the intent is to make it handicap accessible, and whether it's ramps or lifts or combination thereof, because the side on by White Place is very tight. You know, our intent is to make it handicap accessible. So we are with you. Let's go to Nancy so then she can, you know, go about her evening.
Go have my dinner. First, I just want to say, Julie, I love your artwork, your original artwork in the back. I believe my mother has the exact same one and looks just as awesome. It looks like Fenway Park.
It is. Thank you.
If I could go get hers and show you when the screen, so I'll send you a picture. I just wanted to ask actually about water, since nobody's asked anything about water. You know, I don't filter my water, Fred, and you know, I often wonder if I should be. And I know lots of people have little Brita things and they do all that. So I have always drank this water and it seems fabulous. I'm curious if the town does any testing of the water and what testing is that? And should I be Brita-ing my water?
Well, first off, Nancy, thank you very much for asking me a question. I really
thank God, Nancy.
I'm watching all your faces trying to keep you all going over there.
Yeah, no, I greatly appreciate it. So I personally don't recommend the need for a filter. We get our water from the MWRA, as you know, which is from the Wachusett Reservoir and the Plum Reservoir. It's extremely protected, highly protected watershed area. The MWRA tests for over 100 different types of minerals and contaminants and that sort of thing. And they test, not only do they test the water in the reservoir, they test the water in the streams coming into the reservoir. They test the water as it leaves the reservoir, goes into the treatment plant, comes out of the treatment plant. It is one of the highly tested waters. And then we as a community, we also test the water every week as well for chlorine residuals, for E. coli, for total coliform and that sort of thing. So we have probably, and I mean this, the city of Boston, which has the same water that we do, has won national awards for not only the taste, but the clarity of the water that MWRA provides us.
Thank you, Nancy.
And can I just put a plug in? Everybody's always excited about donating a tree. I would be happy if someone wanted to donate a hydrant.
Donate a hydrant. That's a
good
idea.
one.
So just want to get that little plug in.
I like that idea, being the wife of a retired fireman. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. What do you have, Julie?
We have another question from David Wolf. What is the DPW's approach and level of concern with Eversource resilience and reliability in Brookline? Is this a concern for the DPW? I'm asking because of the increasing use of electricity in homes and sometimes for cars, as well as for DPW equipment, as you mentioned. Eversource equipment, of course, is aging too. I'm concerned that electricity outages might become increasingly impactful and potentially dangerous for residents in future years.
David, that's a great question. We actually are meeting with Eversource right now. They're working on some major reliability initiatives. And right now we are reviewing what is looking to be a 3-year upgrade plan for their infrastructure in Brookline. This is kind of a component of their network through town, but we are concerned about it. We are working with them. We work with them and their team at multiple different levels. Everybody here on the screen works with Eversource and National Grid in some way, shape, or form. But yes, we are concerned about reliability, and you will see some more reliability work happening with Eversource in the very near future.
Great. We have another question from Marjorie Katz. Are there any plans to repair the path at Lost Pond? It is almost impassable now due to huge tree roots and mud. The sides of the path have thorny bushes, so impossible to go off the path.
Tom.
Lost Pond is an interesting one because it's actually a conglomeration of a few different parcels owned by a few different property owners and a few different entities. It includes the town of Brookline and DCR and the city of Newton. The boardwalk system that actually goes down to Lost Pond itself, as a point of information, is on DCR property, but we, through a cooperative effort with DCR, actually repaired it and replaced it because they didn't have any capacity at the time to take care of it. I see the same challenges when we walk out there. You'll actually see 2 sections of boardwalk that were done through volunteer efforts at the time out there. We'll continue to work with our friends at DCR and encourage them to do that. In terms of the trail maintenance itself, I agree that on either side, it's a nice wide trail. In fairness, especially compared to many others, it's probably 5 to 6 feet wide with clear passage, which is great, but it definitely is very thick on either side. So Alex Cassie, who's runs our park rangers, does a fantastic job leveraging volunteer efforts and community efforts. And he and I have had a couple discussions about seeing if we can target another section of additional boardwalk that we could put in there to keep the process moving forward a little bit at a time. So, and thank you for your question. Appreciate it.
Audrey had another question. How does the town coordinate with DCR on DCR managed roads that are in Brookline? There have been problems where Newton Street splits, the stop sign on the left, but the road on the right becomes West Roxbury Parkway. She was rear-ended. A car in front of her stopped short going up the hill towards South Street light, and she's seen cars going down West Roxbury Parkway.
So I'm gonna pass this on to Todd, but I will say that you know, for those that are local, you know that intersection very well, but you know, others that come through town can be very confused by that intersection. Todd?
Yeah, so we do work with DCR as well as Mass DOT for their controlled roadways, and we try to coordinate with them as best possible to look at safety issues when they get reported to us, and then we'll pass it on to them with recommendations. That intersection in particular has been looked at by the town. We actually had a consultant develop a safety improvement plan there that we have given to Mass DCR. And I know that that project is actually working through their capital financing. And they are actually looking at making improvements there, making improvements, really that whole corridor, the connection between West Roxbury Parkway, Newton Street, Horace James Circle, all the way up to Putterham Circle, and then out to VFW Parkway. They're looking at making it more pedestrian friendly, more bike friendly, as well as safer, improving safety for motorists. So we do work with them. They do have control over the roadway. We cannot force them to do things, but we try to influence them.
And that is going to be a big project, you know, and it is on their radar, and we are eager to work on that with them.
And Marjorie had a third question. I live on the Brookline Newton line at Heath in Florence. Why is it so difficult for Brookline to coordinate with Newton to stop the speeders coming down the hill on Florence? This has been a problem for years.
It certainly has. It's you know, we work with Newton. As you know, right over on the Brookline side, we have a speed hump that meets you shortly after crossing the border, and then a raised crosswalk as well. And that was partially funded through the Wegmans development as part of their mitigation package, you know, because we have a strong focus on pedestrian safety and reducing speeds of motor vehicles and improving roadway safety. And Newton's side, we tried to convince Newton to implement a similar traffic calming. We spoke to their aldermen, now city councilors. We worked with their traffic division to see if they would implement it. And time and time again, they do not, they have not been as supportive of raised elements and traffic calming as Brookline has. They are starting, there's new staff over there that is starting to implement it. And we're working with them on in other areas. You know, they have not acted on Florence Street. We can certainly try to revisit the issue with them again of Florence Street. But you know, unfortunately, again, it's their controlled roadway, and we can only push them and influence them so far.
And some of that's going to be enforcement, Todd, as well.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, in the end of it, yeah. I mean, you know, it's enforcement. You know, the speed humps do have a certain, you know, enforcing mechanism to them that if you don't slow down, you bottom out. You know,
as John Bain will attest to.
But you know, it's not ideal though. We're trying to improve safety for everyone, including the motorist. So that's why we use warning signs, pavement markings, etc., to warn them that it's coming up.
Yeah.
But it would be good if it was a coordinated corridor. That's for sure.
Okay, we have another question from Scott Gladstone. Before the pond was drained at Lars Anderson for the construction, were the turtles and fish relocated? And if so, where? And will they be brought back?
I'll jump on this one, Aaron.
Okay.
The turtles are actually still there. They burrowed down into the mud, and there's large piles of dredge material on both sides, 5 different locations, I believe. And that was for a couple different purposes, one of which was to give habitat to the turtles. So I've seen them, they're hanging out and just enjoying their time. So in terms of the fish, we have carp in the pond, Mr. Gladstone. Carp are illegal to relocate because they're invasive. So, but if you look closely, which is very difficult to do because the construction fences are up for safety, right down the middle of the lagoon, there's a significant trench, and that is always filled with groundwater. And it's pretty chock-a-block full in there right now, but they're in there. So, and those are the 2 things that we've done for Lars Anderson Lagoon.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Scott, for asking about the fish and turtles.
Okay, another question from Ruth Ann Snyder. This is a heads up concerning the Billy Ward Playground. It's now open to dogs, but a new generation of friends of the playground are organizing to request the playground be made off limits to dogs. Could you please outline the process they will need to follow?
Alexandra, do you want me to? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So the Billy Ward Playground is not part of our Green Dog program, and that's our shared use program for dog users and other parks and open space users in the town. You can find out more information about that on our website if you're interested. So the Billy Ward Playground is not part of that program. So if dogs are there off leash and running around, that's actually not allowed at that program. And I'm happy to ask our folks who patrol the parks and the open spaces to take a look at Billy Ward from time to time and have conversations with people who do, if they have dogs off leash there. If you wanted to make any sort of change just broadly regarding the Green Dog program, that's actually a subcommittee that exists out of the Park and Rec Commission. And we have a meeting coming up in early June. I don't want to misquote the date. And so you could certainly bring any sort of requests like that before that committee for consideration. I will say that part of those meetings are also meant to be an opportunity for the public to ask questions, give feedback about how the program's going and what's working and what isn't.
And just as a follow-up to that, Ruth Ann, so if one wanted to have a sort of no dogs allowed, and there are a couple open spaces that actually don't allow dogs off leash, that would be a petition to the Park and Recreation Commission, and they could consider that and make a determination. But in thinking about this, and I will get back to you, Billy Ward Playground could actually be I need to look at what the designation is right now, because all of the parks and open spaces do have a designation and we have a list. So I will share that with you. And, you know, if Billy Ward happens to be as a small playground, no dogs allowed, then maybe we need to do a better job with signage. And if it isn't, then it would be a request for a policy change to the Park and Recreation Commission.
So just to clarify on that, Ruth Ann, it's Green Dog programs, parks allow dogs off use at certain hours at certain times of the year. And then other parks and open spaces actually don't allow dogs at all, even on leash. And so that's the status that Aaron was referring to, just to clarify.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Would it be possible to get a protected pedestrian walk signal at the intersection of Beacon and Washington Square? I'm not sure the correct term, but one that allows people to cross with all traffic stopped.
Todd.
Yeah, so that is called an exclusive pedestrian phase, and it does exactly that. It stops all vehicles and allows exclusive use for pedestrians to cross all approaches. The Pedestrian Advisory Committee released a walk study report and identified certain intersections where they preferred a exclusive phase or a concurrent phase. The concurrent phase is more beneficial with respect to pedestrian delay because the pedestrians are not waiting as long. However, in some cases, it does make sense to have the exclusive when there are excessive right turns, a high number of right turns, etc. So we can look at that intersection and see, what the pedestrian advisory committee had recommended. But the vast majority of signals they recommend for concurrent phasing, which is where the pedestrian crosses at the same time the motor vehicles. In those cases, we try to put in what's called an LPI, a leading pedestrian interval, to give the pedestrians a 4-second jump start on the motor vehicle, so they're established in the crosswalk already. And we also put up signs, yield to pedestrian and crosswalk, etc. And that's actually the preferred treatment for by Walk Boston as well. Again, to reduce the amount of delay of pedestrians waiting on the corner, waiting for the ability to cross. And also, it decreases on jaywalking and those types of instances. So we'll take a look at that, but it will largely be driven on the Pedestrian Advisory Committee and what their recommendation is. If it is to stay concurrent, then we can look to add an LPI if it does not already exist, which does improve pedestrian safety.
All right, thank you. Julie, since we have John here, maybe we do a quick question. And then what I'd like to say to the group is I know that there is a town meeting training at 8 o'clock for, I think it's a Zoom training, is town meeting is going to be on Zoom this year again. And so we do want to kind of wrap up at 8 so that those of you that plan to go to that online training program can do so. But also, if you have comments or questions, we will print all of these out and we can get back in touch with you, or just frankly incorporate your comments and feedback into our overall work plan. So if we aren't able to get to your comment this evening, we will review all of them and as warranted get back to you, or just take it as something. I see that there are some comments that are things that folks just want us to consider, and we would be glad to do that. So please feel free to put those in the Q&A. John.
Thank you, Aaron, for giving me a second shot. I'll be quick. My questions are to Fred. I live on Aspinwall Avenue, and I see a lot of great new equipment going down Aspinwall Avenue to the water department. And my real question is, the big vacuum truck, you have 2 of them, I believe. What does that actually do? And where does that waste go that it sucks up? And I also notice you have one that has a shovel that goes down to the catch basin and pulls out waste. What happens to that waste?
So the vacuum trucks that you talk about, John, those are for cleaning sewer blocks in sewage. So basically what we do is when we clean out the sewers, we free up a block. We then slowly pump the sewage back into the sewer mains at one of our locations up at the transfer station. The other vehicle you're talking about with the big shovel is a catch basin cleaner. We take it's like a clamshell that goes down and cleans the catch basins. We take that waste and we actually store that covered up at the transfer station and have that taken away and disposed of properly by a third-party vendor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Aaron, for allowing me a second question.
Thank you. Julie?
Okay. Hugh Madison, could Tom mention our back of the sidewalk program? The TPC wants to promote this in any way we can, maybe even a blast email or a note on bills that are mailed out.
Excellent. Tom, oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you for the question. The back of sidewalk program allows us to leverage some very unique language. Within Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, it gives us as a community the authority to use public funds to plant trees on private property within 20 feet of the back edge of the sidewalk. So, or within 20 feet of the back edge of the right of way. This allows the trees to develop in a more hospitable environment, establish a little bit easier, pulls them back from the sidewalk, so it reduces tree sidewalk conflicts. There's a whole bunch of benefits to this. It's triggered by going into either our website, and you will find a simple one-page form that we ask folks to fill out and sign and send in, giving an indication of their preferences and locations and an agreement to help us take care of that. And then after 5 years, we relinquish ownership of the tree and it stays with the property. So It's available on our website, or reach out to us at the main line at the Parks and Open Space Division, and we'd love to get just some information on it. And thank you for the nudge, Hugh. Appreciate it.
And folks, I just dropped for anyone in the audience the link to the Back of Sidewalk page in the chat box. So you can all click on that hyperlink and it'll take you there for more information.
Okay, next question is Carol Williamson. Will the overhead wires on Cypress Street next to the new high school building be buried underground?
There are no plans to bury the overhead wires underground as part of our project in terms of the Cypress playground. And I don't know if there's some potentially, because I know we're connecting power at the park across Tappan, so there will be a little bit of underground conduit, but not much.
Okay, next question from Linda Pelk. She has two questions. I just saw a story about Wellesley finding violators for idling longer than 5 minutes, as the EPA law mandates. As someone who has occasionally called the police on idlers, I would like to see Brookline get more serious about this issue.
Okay, what's next?
I really,
thank you, Linda.
Yep, I really
We'll consider
appreciate
that.
I really appreciate some of the natural habitats and green infrastructure elements in Fisher Hill Reservoir Park. I would love to see these types of green elements to improve the environment services throughout the public realm to help our ecology and public health.
And this really touches on everybody here. Alexandra is a huge fan of this. This is something that Fred's thinking about in terms of our MS4 permit. Tom is looking at this in terms of using our open spaces to really help filtering clean that stormwater runoff. So we agree. And the only thing that I would add, and I think we need to move forward, with our eyes open, is while they seem really wild and easy to care for, they're not. They actually take a lot of maintenance to ensure that they're not they're not getting infested with invasives, and that they have the proper combination of vegetation that is doing the uptake as it was originally designed. So they're complex and they do require maintenance, and we would love to do more, and we want to do more, and we just want to do it thoughtfully and make sure that we have the capacity to maintain them so that they can function well.
Okay, we have another question from Abby Swain. I love the recycling corner column in the tab, but I'm repeatedly disappointed by what I see peeking out of my neighbor's bins. Is compliance with new and long-standing rules a big issue?
Oh, Kevin. And actually, I have to give John Dempsey a plug for the recycling corner, which he has, devoted himself to for years. It is witty and informative, and is really terrific. So, cheers to John Dempsey for keeping that up, and to the entire Solid Waste Advisory Committee for their work. But what do you think, Kevin, in terms of contamination in the recycling bins?
As far as the contamination in Brookline in the recycling, we are probably on the top of the list in Massachusetts, if not around New England, as having the least contamination in our recycling. We are at levels of below 5%. We've got to some points sometimes at 2.5%, 3%, which was very helpful when we just renegotiated the contract a year back, because of how good our recycling product was. As far as monitoring and keeping up with it, we do spot monitoring throughout each route on time to time, and then we also do inspect the recycle loads at the MRF when the trucks dump, to see how contaminated it is and whatnot. But all in all, Brookline is ahead of the curve with contamination in regards to recycling.
All right. So Julie just said that we have gone through our questions. We certainly do have a lot of comments as well, and so we will look at all of those. Some of them are kind of repeat comments for themes or things that have already come up. It's 10 minutes before 8. So just sort of one last shot. If anyone wants to type another question or raise your hand, we are glad to chat with you.
Hey, Erin.
Yes.
I think we do have a question in here that we might have not answered, but we were going to. Is DPW involved with planning for an outdoor swimming pool? Where does planning for an outdoor swimming pool stand?
Oh, thank you. Would you like me to answer that? Do you want to answer that?
Go ahead and I'll fill in.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So there was a resolution passed by town meeting that asked the Park and Recreation Commission and Parks and Open Space staff to look at possible sites for an outdoor swimming pool. The Park and Recreation Commission established a task force. The Park and Open Space Division did a lot of work in terms of looking at test fits of where an outdoor pool would fit in the existing parks and open spaces that we have, and looked at a whole host of different configurations. They presented 7 different sites with different options within them at the public meetings through this task force. They had 3 public meetings, ultimately decided that Lars, Newbury College, and Putterham Woods were sites worthy of additional evaluation, and that other sites as well may present themselves and to look at possible partnerships. So that's where that is. That is not funded. We did put funding. We had requested funding for a feasibility study for a whole host of recreational amenities, including an outdoor pool. That was not put forward in funding. So there isn't specific funding for that right now. However, as part of the ice rink feasibility study, we've incorporated analysis of year-round use. And so if there's a 3-season outdoor rink, are there other uses within that space or contiguous to that space to provide year-round use? And so the team will be listening to ideas, and we know that an outdoor pool will be something that will come forward as a something to be contemplated in terms of, is it a compatible use? And then they'll talk about whether that's a compatible site or someplace else. So we won't be diving that deep into it specifically, but it will be, I'm sure, discussed as part of this specific Lars and ice rink feasibility study. Anything to add on that, Alexandra?
As usual, no. I mean, the one thing I'll say is that there are going to be 4 different public meetings for that Lars ice rink feasibility study. And so, as Erin said, this isn't the primary focus, but I anticipate this coming up. And so as we move towards hopefully some feasible options for the ice rink, I think that will help also highlight what are still the needs, if there are needs, for the outdoor pool, and what the public process needs to be to determine the right location for that as well. So I think this is not necessarily the first step, but a helpful step in moving forward with that determination.
All right. Fantastic. So Julie, is that it?
It is.
For bringing that up, Alexandra. So I want to thank my team here. They are incredible professionals that are here for you, the community. They work incredibly well together, and this is a really strong leadership team for Public Works. We are available if you have questions, and really appreciate you coming this evening to share your ideas, ask your questions, and connect with us. So appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And I think unless there's anything else from my team, just have a great night. All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.